Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. This time we actually got the game to make a new Crusader character, so we're actually doing proper seasonal stuff, instead of having the game just act weird and say no, you can't make anybody. So it let us skip the campaign, still at level 1. Funnily enough, able to hit max morality, which I kind of wish they at least brought us like level 20 at that point. Even level 10, just something, because otherwise it feels weird being like level 1 and having skipped the entire story. But because we don't even have intel to run, we're going to actually do a random assignment. We'll go hard. I don't want to try to set this character to be like, we're going to do Eye of Terror. Level 11 isn't going to work well for this guy. Okay. Inquisitor recently cleansed industrial zone has relapsed into armed conflict. Heretical preachers and cultist slaughter squads came out of hiding and started another uprising. Local authorities are at the brink of collapse, aggravating this potential incident with traitorous incompetence. The planetary administration requested our assistance, assume operational command, and lead the local forces to suppress the uprising. How do we want to go about this? I'd probably go stealth agents, because I feel like hiring local gangs is going to boost collateral damage immensely. Reprogram and arm all servitors, you never know, but I think stealth is the best option. Most expensive, but we'll see. We seem to be making a difference. All local units have passed the inquisitorial audit. The miracle seeker savants of the Holy Ordo were noted. The cultist rebel attempted to separate large Imperial units from the main army, ending up encircled and slaughtered by the same units. Hey, that's pretty good. And then, last reports inloaded, priority intervention required on one of these things. I would go strategic Vox relay station lost to cultist insurgents. I think personally that'd be the most important. Do we want any buffs? Nah, we're good. Yeah, funny enough, we also get to start with Uther's Tarot all ready to go. I forgot about that.
There was a protective hex on the chest. I must defeat the summoned creature.
Probably should have looked at how this season works, but seem to be doing fine as is. We'll check our loot once we deal with these guys. Okay, what do we get? Because we can start flipping stuff immediately. Better armor, calls in a turret. Better implant. A las pistol. I know it's a lot better, but it's also 2/3 the damage. I'm gonna end up going heat build again with this character because there's a bunch of good heat weapons. So why wouldn't I take that? But if you haven't been following some of the gaming news lately, Overwatch League is in dire straits. From what I heard, they're essentially offering like payouts to anybody who's looking to actually leave, which is shocking to me considering some of those, because what Overwatch League did is they had franchises, so much like hockey, American football, those are the two that come to mind. You would pay if you wanted, let's say, the Los Angeles Strikers. Let's just make that team up for Overwatch. You would have to pay. The initial round of teams were costing like $20 million. And then expansion teams within a year were going for like $30 million. And some of these teams still have like $7 million-ish at the high end that they owe. And Blizzard, and I guess it is just Blizzard is like, hey, you guys don't have to pay that. But I'm not surprised. The game hasn't been doing well. They absolutely borked their initial bit with the, what is it? The PvE mode. Being like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a PvE, really great, and everybody can play it. And then they turned around and said, oh yeah, we spent like 4 years on this, we're just gonna scrap it. But then they also said, oh, we have a story mode that's PvE and you can pay for that. Absolute clown shoes. And the interesting part with all of it is the CDL, the CoD League, is also suffering from a similar issue. And they've announced that they're having problems there. Granted, with Overwatch, they're saying it'll all be fine and healthy in like 2 years, which it doesn't sound like it. If you have to buy out your franchisees, you're probably not going to recover in what amounts to about a year and a half. I hate to be that guy, but just, it doesn't sound very likely. And I think a big problem with CDL and with Overwatch was the franchisee part. And the big reason is, when you compare it to other franchise sports, what are the big things that happen every year? Trades and drafts. Trades and drafts are the two big things that happen every year. Same thing with like basketball. It's big. Trades are colossal. People watch the draft every year. But the problem with some of these games, actually a lot of esports in general, is they don't have the room for it. When you're a 5-6 man team, trading a player is colossal. And the only reason you're offloading someone is if they got convicted of something, or they are just not playing ball with the rest of your team. Okay, Fox Relay Station is back under Imperial control. Transmissions across the battlefield are now reported to be loud and clear. The morale of the cultist force is waning, their flock is fleeing, but so many more to kill, the insurgency is expected to be eradicated within days. Dogged cultist resistance is slowing down Imperial advance. The well-dug-in positions shall be annihilated to regain troop mobility. Don't need any of that. Oh, we're just doing a purge. Cool. But as I was saying, we don't have drafts for these games. We don't have trades. The draft thing is big because you don't really need a lot of backups. You don't need a second string for any of these games. You might have 1 or 2 reserve guys in case someone's sick. But for the most part, teams are what they are. And then on top of all that, the companies, these studios do not put any effort into future-proofing. I had said this back with G4. If Comcast really cared, they would have started airing esports. Which if we're going to be realistic, you could, if you were Comcast, you could pay relatively low money to broadcast these games. Because a lot of these esports orgs and a lot of these tournaments, a lot of these TOs will likely just be like, yeah, that's fine. You're paying us realistically probably very little, and they can still use that very well. Can you imagine if some of these smaller, like Smash tournaments got paid like 10 grand just to broadcast their tournament? They'd absolutely go for it, because that's good money. It's probably a lot more than they're getting in a lot of cases. And it would cement a channel like G4 as being the esports place, and then these tournaments and these games would be able to survive better. You could get away with paying guys better, which that's another problem is, I'm not gonna call them athletes. I get people have their own feelings about esports and whether you really want to call it a sport. And I'm cool with calling it esports. It is professional competitive games, so I think that's fine, but I refuse to call them athletes. Competitors, just whatever game, pros, that's fine. That is a fitting title. But these guys could get paid better. And I think it would help them, because then they could get more views on Twitch streams and stuff that they do, because they'd be getting their name on TV. Or hell, even if Netflix wanted to, they could probably try to rig up something to get broadcasting rights. But the lack of future-proofing really just, it did a number. Everybody had to know that the way esports are set up, it's all a bubble. Because when you look at, like, Moist Critical, so Charlie, Ludwig, a lot of these guys who've invested in esports themselves and into orgs, they all know they're losing money. When those guys bought FaZe Clan, all the businessmen and stuff, and they did their IPO and whatever, they had to know they were losing money. That's why they brought Snoop Dogg in. That's why they did all this random crap. They did the comic where it was Batman facing off against Mr. Freeze, and he had to ask FaZe Clan to help. If you're that desperate that you're trying to do, like, comic book cross promos, there's a problem. It reminds me of in the late days of WCW when they had, like, I can't remember what, if it was I can't remember if it was Fall Brawl or Halloween Havoc, one of them I want to say, but they had Kiss show up and do a few songs. And it's stuff like that where you're running out of stuff and you're just trying to pull people in by any means necessary. And that's what it feels like, is this kind of act of desperation. But, like always, what do I know? I'm just a dude. And I've said it before, I think some esports, to kind of pull on that need for higher player numbers and the need for like trades and stuff to make games that are maybe 12v12. So you can actually afford to trade a player or two and do things like that, but I think they also need to learn from games like League of Legends where they make teams compete every year. With the cultist defenders annihilated, the counter-offensive is gaining momentum again. Execution of incompetent officers is handled by the commissariat. Cultist forces sitting on a hidden munitions cache. The threat will be removed before the cache is found and plundered. So we're just doing the 3, just in whatever order. That's fine. Another purge, that's easy. But, like I said with League of Legends, if you haven't followed LCS or don't really know a lot about it, they make teams compete every year. There's like a preseason where you have to, at least last I checked, you had to earn your spot. Nobody was guaranteed in. Granted, a lot of the teams were back-to-back-to-back winners, so they were always in the pro scene. But sometimes teams just, their good guys retired, or just something would happen and they wouldn't do well. They'd get a bad pairing, get screwed because of meta, whatever it may be. But that, at least, personally, I think that's a far healthier system, because then it gives a lot of people a feeling of, hey, I can make it. I can join a semi-pro team and next year I can go big. Or I can form a team and we'll go into competitive and we'll try to reach challenger tier. Is it a pipe dream? Depends on who you ask. But I think it's a lot better than trying to get picked up for franchises. Because how often do franchises need new people in these games? Because let's do some quick maths here. Let's rough out, let's say there's, let's be generous, let's say there's 20 teams. I don't think there is, I think it's closer to like 15, but we'll say 20 teams. If it's more, oh well, you can scale this up. For 20 teams, let's say you have your main, let's say you have even 10 people. You got some backups, it's a, let's say 6-man team. Not enough for a full roster change, but enough to have some backups, and you can do kind of almost full team. Actually, let's go 12. Let's just go 12. Say you can do internal scrims. So you got 240 people total competing in your pro scene out of how many million players? At least when it came to League, the ELO system, because before I jump into that, COD's competitive scene that they added this year, absolute dumpster fire. Because it's just like an MMR, so you just get a competitive rank, but it doesn't look to, I may be wrong, but it doesn't look like it's actually, or at least very well divided up. Because like the top tier is the top 250 players, and then it's just 8 categories, while League is a bit more generous in being like, hey, I want to say it's like silver or gold is where the biggest chunk of players will reside, because it's a bell curve. but it's all percentage based. So you can have a lot more people in Challenger if you have a lot more players. Or if you have a very small competitive scene, you don't have a lot of people in Challenger. Either way, it's a lot better than not having that. I just think they need to really reevaluate, and I think a lot of esports need to really reevaluate how they do stuff and how some of these games are even built. Cultist raiders were taken out, hidden arms cache shows no sign of tampering, all ordnance is accounted for. Victory is not a matter of if but when, yet the heretics still come, our task is nearly done. Dogged cultist resistance is slowing down Imperial advance, the well-dug in position shall be annihilated to regain troop mobility. I always thought these were like 4 mission runs, or 3 mission runs, not 4. But it's just another purge, and these are going fast. I just remembered the existence of Battlefield 1's competitive mode that they had very, very briefly before that it failed. I actually kind of miss that. I never played it because they essentially rebuilt all the classes, and I wasn't too big on that, but I did like the ideas. Because I remember there was like a tanker class that you used the Renault FT Light, which was really cool to have like a dedicated tank class. And stuff like that I think is interesting. I genuinely think a 12v12 is probably the future of competent esports. Because we're always going to have CSGO, we're always going to have stuff like that. But I think the next iteration is slightly bigger teams. Because at the end of the day, they're all the same right now. When you really break it down. Because Rainbow Six Siege, it's search and destroy, but in a single house. You have Call of Duty, which is mostly search and destroy, but they've tried to move like hard point and stuff like that in to mix it up. You have... Overwatch was actually the anomaly, because they actually tried to do something different, but it was just like bomb escort and stuff, and it's not that creative. Okay. I really need to look up what that does. Because I see the meter on my left filling, but I don't know what that is. I don't... Like, I'm just trying to figure it out, because it's gotta be something useful. But, yeah, with esports, I don't know where it's gonna go in the next few years. When we're seeing big companies take the hit, who knows? I know a friend of mine had said, yeah, I'd hate to be someone who invested in Activision right now. Because I haven't looked, but I can bet with that news coming out that their stock price is taking at least a little bit of a hit. Because they were, like I said, they were selling those franchise slots for a lot of money. And to suddenly just buy out a ton of stuff. They said they're spending like $144 million buying out contracts. I just can't believe people actually paid for it. Because I remember hearing ages ago They were trying to convince people to buy in, like, oh yeah, there'll be Overwatch stadiums. Oh god, that just... Maybe rein it in from a stadium. What I would have done, if I was really keen on getting people to watch my competitive team, I'd try something a little more mellow. Like maybe something along the lines of like a sports bar. You can get people in, get people interested, they got food, drinks, they can hang out like a Buffalo Wild Wings, but for gamers. Because I think that's casual enough for people to be like, oh yeah, we'll just, go get some chicken wings or whatever. It's cool. Or we'll go get a burger here and watch the game. Instead of a stadium. No one ever built one, thank God. Because I don't think... Well, yeah, none of them really got a big ROI because they're still paying off the team. God, the more I think about that ended up going just absolutely pear-shaped. Oh well, not my money. Another munitions cache? I'm starting to get real confused here. I'm gonna back out of this quick. We'll head back to the command bridge. Because this is starting to weird me out, because I've never seen a mission go this long. And this allows me to kind of swap gear in and out quick. We'll hold off on that refractor field, because that energy shield doesn't have any regen to go with it. Stun mine, I don't like stun mines. We'll go auto pistol just because I need a filler. That Signum's actually kind of trash. Bonus damage when enemies are within no enemy within 5 meters, and then a melee damage bonus. Quick lightning mulch. But I'm going to call it here. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.